Good evening and welcome to another live members surgery. And of course, you might be consuming this surgery as a recording later through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and our newly launched podcast on all major podcast services, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. My name is Scott Haslam, president of the Leeds #1 amalgamated branch of the Communication Workers Union. I'd be most grateful if you would help us reach as many members as possible by sharing this episode. And if you haven't done so, try liking that CW Leeds and North East regional Facebook pages, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and searching for the podcast by searching CW Members Surgery. So in tonight's show, I'm honoured to be joined by not only Chris Webb, the head of communications of the CWU. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Scott. Good to be with you, mate.
Thank you, and thanks for accepting the invitation. Put my teeth back in. So tonight we want to talk about communications, social media, digital campaigns, and the CW app, and maybe a little bit more. So please don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you with any questions or comments. And this surgery is designed to give you the opportunity to help mold the future of the CWU. Right, let's get this session going. And Chris, I think to open up, just in case anyone hasn't copped you on any of the platforms that we stream on, would you like to introduce yourself formally, and what does the head of comms mean, and what does it actually do?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I mean, two good questions there to kick off with. So I think, my name's Chris. Obviously, I run all of the, head up all of the union's communications. We've got a team based at CW headquarters. Obviously, lots of them have been working from home now for a little bit, but all of them are doing a fantastic job. I suppose, what do I do? Well, I mean, I set the strategy and I set the sort of direction for the union's communications at national level, which is, an interesting job, something I've always had a massive interest in from when I was a local rep right through the union. And I sort of make sure that whether it be the small campaigns, the big national ones, industrial, political, or wider union movement ones, that we are out there, we're vibrant, and ultimately, we give the tools for our brilliant industrial representatives to get deals and agreements across the line and to win and progress things for our members.
Excellent. And it's really, really shown its true colours, I think, what you've been doing the last 6 years as I own it. It's almost like an anniversary, I believe. Mm-hmm. So you picked up the role of head of comms in 2015, as I remember. And in 2015, I think one of your first speeches was down in London. And I've got a screenshot here, and it's actually Steve Putz what I put this on. Yeah, so that's a very young Chris Webb. And what it put down there is that you were setting the scene about a refreshed approach to CW campaigning. And if that day, yesterday, as it was back then, is the new standard, then we're breaking to new spaces. So I think that's quite a powerful statement, and really a good pat on the back, because if you look back now 6 years, how has really that communications changed since you've taken over, and the sort of direction you've helped navigate the Communication Workers Union to do?
Yeah, well, we may have gained some traction in communications, but I've lost a lot of hair since that photo. Scott, to start off with, I noticed Dave Johnson got in a dig on us both for that in the early doors, but there you go, mate. We can take that. No, in terms of like improving, I think that, what I'm not going to do is sit here and say to, the members who may be watching, the reps that are watching, like we do this, we do that, we're fantastic. But I think we can take, some credit for transforming the way the union engages and communicates with its members. And, I'm happy to go through, if you want, throughout the session, the various, platforms in terms of like video, social media, press, etc. But I think the overall thing I would say is it was about, for me, and still is about, and will continue to be about as long as that I'm in the role, about making sure the union looks like, feels like, talks like, and sounds like its members. And I felt that for too long that wasn't the case, and that's not exclusive to the CWU. I think there's often this thing of like in the trade union movement of we're sending a letter to an MP, so it should be written like this because that's how MPs like receiving things. And we're sending out a press release, we should word it like this because that that's what a journalist will publish. And too often, I think the union made the mistake, and other unions make the mistake of falling into that trap. Whereas for me, it was about simple. I mean, some of our like communications that were going out were too complex, were too wordy. And we haven't got there, by the way, 100%. I'm not here saying that we've cracked it, but I think we've made a significant progress on the union now has an identity, and that identity is that of our members, and we look more like and we feel more like our members. And I think when you do that, then all of the social media stuff, the workplace meetings, all flow so much better. And the union, when you come out, everyone now knows the CWU. Obviously, our branding is part of that, and that's a deliberate move. But for me, the big thing is about like who we are, who we stand for, who we represent, and I think we've made significant progress in that area, Scott.
I agree, and to be fair, there's quite an alarming contrast, because even now there's still two types of, if we just focus on video, for example. Steve Bosworth makes an excellent point, and it's something I quite enjoyed myself when I watched it. And the NHS video that I launched this morning, it's fantastic. And to be fair, that's a new high. That's a high quality, well polished, well delivered and executed video, and really well done to the whole comms team on that. But equally, you've got, as you're saying, being relevant to the workplaces, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of this in the digital campaign sort of side of stuff, where being a polished video isn't the be all and end all. Actually, just having a rough and ready little video, just saying anything compelling, is equally as excellent for social media, particularly.
So I think that, I mean, yourself and Steve. So thanks for the plaudits on the NHS video. So that was an idea that have to credit Ian Pointer, our area delivery rep in Nottingham, who came up with an idea that we ran. I mean, obviously Ian, battled for his life with COVID. We gave him a lot of support, the whole union did, and he's very grateful for that. But Dave Ward, Terry Pullinger, and myself met Ian a couple of months ago, and he had the idea that we should be, doing more to support NHS workers. And the video and some subsequent activity, which you're going to see, was born out of that idea. So well done to Ian, first of all. And then myself and others sort of scripted down what we'd like to see out of a video. And I think you're right. I think it's powerful. Also, and I think that standard of video is a new level. That to me is like, top level videography. Goes alongside things like our Christmas advert, which I know you wanted to touch on later on. Also, like, really moving, powerful stuff. But I think the point you make about more earthier stuff is absolutely critical. So give you a really good example of that, and it's something that stuck with me throughout my time in the role. Is when I got the role, we had our own internal video station. If some people will remember CWTV, and that had its pros and that had its cons. But one of the things that really struck me is we were A, spending a lot of money, but B, spending a lot of time like editing footage, making sure things were in the right position, making sure everything sounded perfect, clapper boards and all this sort of stuff. And I just watched that stuff and just thought, I just don't agree with that. Because actually, if a member wants to hear about their pay rise, they just want their union rep in front of them saying, I'm here to tell you about the pay rise. They don't want nice full glasses of water in the background, perfect audio, lovely shots, long shots, close-ups, all that sort of stuff. So, whilst celebrating the fact that we as a trade union can now produce really high quality videos that, can win awards, which is great, and can move people, which is really, really fantastic. My base would always be, stick a camera in front of the union's leadership, ask them a question, get them to get a reply, get it out to the members. Because I think, that's the ultimate level of transparency as well. And I think that's important, Scott, and something you've done really well. And we're encouraging other branches and regions to do is host live sessions, because, there's no editing in that and there's no hiding in that. And members can ask you anything they want, and members can be confident, and they can feel as if they have a say in their union. Over the years, you're going back years and years and years, a member could never dream of coming on and having that level of access to the general secretary, the deputy general secretary. But, we've opened up the union via these sort of authentic, earthier means, and under no circumstances would I want to move from that totally over to the more polished versions.
Well, that's reassuring to hear, and thank you for for really acknowledging what I've been doing. To be fair, it's not something I particularly go looking for, but it is nice when it comes. But I mean, it's interesting you say the live sessions that you can just do it. I mean, I don't know how much planning you go into a live session, but I don't just quite do it off the cuff. I do have a little bit of some sort of plan to go to, because you need something to focus on, and you can quite easily go off and then you end up talking absolute nonsense for hours, to be quite frank.
Yeah, but I totally get that point, and I can tell when you do a session, and hopefully you can when we do them at national level, you know, there's a structure and there's a plan. I was meaning more to the point of like how it feels for a member, and the members' sort of ability to put their criticisms, their challenges, and their questions to the union's leadership.
Yeah, it's very much like, if you can't get to the workplace, then let the workplace come to you type thing. It's almost slightly different. So in terms of the communication and the strategy, you've sort of touched on that branches and regions are now taking the following on from where you started, because I think historically there's been this expectation, hasn't there, that it has to come from head office and head office has to do everything. But actually, when we're talking about local issues, then you wouldn't necessarily know that there's a particular problem in whatever delivery office and such RDC or whatever. So it's quite useful, and I think really powerful, that the localities then start addressing the local issues through these sort of platforms. And how would you see, or how much more would you like to see from branches and regions in that area?
I think there's a few things there. I think that the first thing is that, you know, going back to being in the branch in Plymouth, we, you know, came through the branch at a particularly lucky time, I suppose. You know, having like old heads, people like Doug Liddycrap, Paul Taylor, and others, you know, may or may not know in the union, but also like younger people, as we were at the time, myself, Tony Booch, Andrew Hatch, and others, and we forged like a really powerful team. And one of the things we would always say to each other is we shouldn't be sitting waiting for headquarters to say something. You know, if we've got a view, then we should be expressing that to our members. And you know, that went as far as, for example, like, you know, when an LTB came out, we would rewrite it and say, this is what it means for people in Plymouth. Like, this is what it means to you in Plymouth, you know? So, you know, that's the first thing I want to say is, like, would always encourage branches, even if the National Union is saying nothing, you know, you will have things to say at branch level. In terms of the structural stuff, you know, if I'm being honest, Scott, like more of this, like you know, what you're doing in the Northeast region and the Leeds #1, but you know, and there are plenty of branches doing that stuff as well, by the way. So, you know, through the Count Me In campaign, some of the stuff from our telecoms and financial branches has been excellent. Some of the social media postal branches now, you know, when we've had big industrial action ballots, some of their online activity has been stunning, engaging in like live video, recorded video, you know, social media posts, workplace meetings. So, you know, there's a huge, massive work that takes place in communications. What I would like to see, though, is that to be more consistent. So, like, you know, and if you, I would say to branches, if you feel you haven't got the expertise within the branch, like, please get in contact, because, you know, my team can come, we can deliver training, we can advise on equipment, we can do sessions, like private sessions with the members that so you can get confidence built and all that stuff. Don't sit there and like worry about these things, because I mean, sure, Scott can, you know, back me up here and say, like, you know, it's basically exactly the same as doing an in-person meeting. You know, you're up there, you're in front of your members, you're engaging with them. So what I would like to see, Scott, is like more branches involved, more consistency, because I think ultimately, you know, the test of the success of like people like myself, it will only be, you know, we'll only get where we want to get when the whole union is in that place. Yeah. It's no good like going, oh, you know, that's a brilliant, you know, piece of work from headquarters, or that's a brilliant piece of work from Leeds. It's got to go right across the union, because some members, and this is something that will never change, they don't want to hear from Dave Ward or Terry Pullinger. Their trust in the union is in the man or woman that interfaces with them in the office on a daily basis. So we shouldn't lose sight of that, and we should make sure that our comm strategy flows from top to bottom.
Well, quite an interesting point you said there about taking stuff from head office and slimming it down into layman's terms, because Pete Britt mentions about typically a health and safety, war and peace aspects. Now, the thing is with health and safety, because it's legislation, it has to be right. So quite often when head office is referring information to branches and regions and such, then it has to be accurate. But I suppose that's where it'd be especially important, where branches could condense it to layman's terms or bespoke it to the specific members' audience. So the communication strategy, Dave Ward had famously said at the TUC and the Labour Party conferences that we've built a machine in terms of the communications that we do to help engage with members, particularly on the back of some of the ballot results that we've had. But as with all machines, they require maintenance. So, you've got a fantastic team, and I think we need to dip our heads, bow to them or whatever, to say thanks for what you've been doing in your support, but equally, what improvements or what additions are you going to be making to this machine?
I think, thanks, Scott. And I think, I try to, as regularly as possible, say to anyone engaged within the union that, like, I'm really well supported in a department and the team do a fantastic job. So it's great to have that, acknowledged. So appreciate that. In terms of, I'm a big football fan, as you know, and I, not a fan of Manchester United, but their former manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, he said something like, I remember one season reading that if you don't buy players and try and improve your team, then you start going backwards. And I think that that's where we are as a union, in not in the sense of the team, but in sense to the ideas. If we sit back and think we've made it, then we will start to fall behind other unions who are improving, and the employer who, let's be, let's not be shy of that fact. Like, we've beaten Royal Mail, for example, 3 times in national ballots now. They're not just going to sit back and keep taking that. They've launched, Workplace by Facebook. They've got their own app, etc. Listen, I know Royal Mail will probably be picking up on your sessions. I'd be keen to say to them and any of the employers that, we've got plenty left in the tank in those areas. But in terms of the immediate future, one thing that I'm really excited about is coming out of the pandemic. So I think we've had a brilliant sort of basis of 4 or 5 years of our communication strategy where, the number one focus has been on the workplace, as it should be. Then we've been forced into a period of a year or so where we can't get into the workplace so easily. So we've had to move to online communications. And we did that really successfully in bringing to a close the Royal Mail dispute and obviously the Count Me In campaign. So we've showed we can operate. What I'm excited about is molding those two worlds together in a post-pandemic environment. So, for instance, like the big thing that I'm really keen on is something that we've labelled Workplace Live. We've had it ready now for about 18 months, but obviously haven't been able to launch it. And what Workplace Live is going to be, it's going to be the ability for us to equip branches with cameras and technology and beam officers directly, union officers directly into local offices. So, for instance, I could be with Dave Ward, Terry Pullinger, Andy Kerr, etc., and we could be sat in Wimbledon, and at 7 a.m. we go live in Leeds, at 7:30 we go live in Derby, at 8 o'clock we go live in London, and so on and so forth. And the camera setup would mean that the members would be able to see us, they'd be able to ask questions, they'd be able to hear responses, and all it was going to be basically is we walk into an office, we plant a camera, a 360 camera in the middle of the floor or middle of a canteen or restroom, and we hold a live streaming thing. So like a massive leap forward, I think, for the whole movement if once we start pulling that stuff off. And the ability for, imagine it in the middle of a big industrial action campaign where, for example, someone like Dave or Terry or whatever is in an office doing a face-to-face meeting, but then in between traveling to the next one they're doing, we can get them to do 10 meetings online with the members. So really is an opportunity for us to kick on. The other thing I'm excited about in terms of kicking on is the CW app. So I know we'll probably cover that a bit later on, but that's now ready to launch. We're working on filling out as much content as possible. So when it does launch, members see it, they like it, and they're not like 1 or 2 articles on. So we're getting podcasts, we're getting videos, and we're getting news articles onto there. So I think the app is going to be really exciting because we talk a lot about social media, but some of our members don't like social media, don't trust it, don't want to be on it for whatever reason. The app will bring the best of all of our platforms together in one place. So I think that's going to be, a really, really exciting prospect for our members. What's going to be powerful for me as head of comms and for the union is when we have the app, we can send push notifications directly to people's mobiles. And for me, I'm really excited about that. So if we had 20, 30,000 members that downloaded the app, we could say, Terry Pullinger's going live in 5 minutes. Come and join us. Ballot papers landing tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. Make sure you use your vote. So that's going to be an extremely powerful tool for us. And the final thing that I want us to push on, amongst improving all of our other areas, of course, is CW radio. So, I know, obviously make sure it's all in line with our health and safety regulations, etc. But I know a lot of our members are listening to content at work during their working day in different sort of guises. My attitude to that is, if they're doing it, let's give them something to listen to, and let's give them something they're going to want to listen to from a union perspective. That's going to give them information. That's going to be a bit of a show, information, bit of fun, bit of wider trade union movement, bit of education from a union perspective. So I'm really, really keen to start almost radio style shows this year. Once we're back in the office, we've got all the equipment. And again, one of the disappointing things of the pandemic is we just kitted out the studio at CWHQ to really, really high spec, almost newsroom style standard. And then we're all carted off to our houses with our laptops and phones. So yeah, a few things there, Scott, I'm really, really excited about, which hopefully will reassure people that there's more to come from us, mate.
Excellent. Well, there's been a few comments about excitement. I've got to agree. I mean, I was down, I think, just before the pandemic locked England down, and that's where you did that marathon live session, if you recall, and you were saying about the new equipment you got there, and you needed to unpack it one for another. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure. So in terms of moving some of that, because we've crossed off into some of the areas we're going to explore, but particularly in terms of social media, we've got different platforms across. So actually, if you're watching, we'd really be interested to know which platforms you use and why you use them, what works better for you, what would you like to see the CWU using. But for instance, we're airing on Facebook, we're airing on Twitter, and we're also airing on YouTube. So they're the key video ones what we do at the present minute. But equally, we're on Instagram. Certainly Leeds, I've set up a Twitch account, which I'm not streaming on so much, but is that something that you'd use? TikTok, I know something the national team have just sort of set up. Snapchat is another one. Do people still use that, or is that just people at school? I mean, I don't really know. It's beyond me. But there we go. But I mean, Dave Johnson mentioned as well about Royal Mail workplace app, and actually what he said is, is a similar platform for the Royal Mail workplace app. I think you've kind of touched on some of it anyway, but so we'll see what engagement we get, Chris. But what's your views on which are the key platforms and why we use them, and what the other platforms I mentioned, or any other that I haven't, which ones are we going to see some of the national stuff moving on to or trying?
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so a few things in there. The first thing I'd want to say is, I think all of them have a level of importance, and particularly as you're trying to build something, sometimes it can be a really slow burner. We tried for ages to get YouTube channel going with very minimal success, and all of a sudden it had a couple of thousand subscribers because the lockdown hit and we were able to use it a lot more. So I'm really committed to not expecting to see massive numbers overnight and building, because 10 people subscribe, I like it, tell 5 others, and it just hopefully snowballs. And you've got to put, even the top sort of YouTubers have put in years and years of dead time to build their following. So I think it's important that we recognize that there's a worth in putting something everywhere. Because if we start, for example, a Twitch account and 5 people watch it on there, you can take it as 5 people that wouldn't have seen our content. So that's a bonus for me. So there's that. In terms of the individual channels, I think from a member's perspective, we still lean on Facebook heavily. There's a number of reasons for that. The first reason is the demographics of our membership match almost like year for year the demographics of the Facebook users in the UK. Obviously that we've got lots of young members, but we have got many more in the sort of 45 to 65 bracket, and we have below that, and that's the sort of demographics who are using Facebook normally. And it's been hugely successful for us. And we rebuilt it because when I got the role, we didn't have a Facebook page. We had a Facebook group, and it was like a total madhouse. So we basically deleted the group and started from scratch and really went for it. And it's reached at peak times, millions and millions of people. I mean, it was reaching like 6 million people a week at the height of the pandemic. So it's been a really successful platform for us, and we'll keep, using that and building it. On Twitter, slightly more diverse. So we use Twitter for our public-facing content, political content, a lot more fun stuff, a lot more edgy stuff, taking people down, challenging the government. So, we use that in a very different way. We have Hayley from the comms team has invested a lot of time in Instagram over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, and that's had significant benefit for us as well. So we're making sure we're in there. And I always say to Hayley as well, like with our members being out and about, and being so well photographed and some fantastic images, I think we as a union have the opportunity to really do well on Instagram. We also, by the way, have the opportunity to do, in my view, really well on TikTok. Now, obviously, resource is always an issue, and I would always say to Dave and to the union, give me 3, 4, 5 more members of the team, and I can't, keep asking for more. But I do think if you take that attitude we show on Twitter with the fun, the edginess, and that, and then the best of the stuff we do on video and combine those two things, I think we could be fantastic on TikTok as a union. So that's another priority for me in the next few years, as is building our YouTube channel, because I think that's a great place we could host some sort of LBC style radio, Novara Media style radio content on, and bit of video as well. So building the YouTube content, with that would come Twitch as well. I think that's an area I really want to get into, because as I say, if we only get a dozen people watching it in the first few weeks, that's a dozen new people attracted to engaging with the union. So yeah, I would be really interested in people coming forward, as you've called for, Scott, with new ideas, with their thoughts, etc. But I think sort of my summary would be, we're doing okay in those areas, but we recognise that there's loads more we can do.
Excellent. Well, there were, I think it was on Twitter, I think you must be capturing videos, or certainly videos that are circulating, anything to do with a post person, and there were one, and he were walking along, it's football orientated. I think he posted something, the ball came over, flicked it, kicked it, right. and I thought that were fantastic. So little things like that, where we're, I won't say regurgitating, but certainly focusing, I suppose, the broad, well, we're linking the union to our members, aren't we, in a public platform? That's the key. And yeah, while we can do that with positivity is then associated with the CWU.
I think it's exactly that, Scott. It's also showing the wider audience that, a trade unionist isn't just that man or woman or individual on a picket line. A trade unionist could be someone kicking a ball in there, or someone who, who, when you put 2 words on an envelope, helps it finds its way to you, or someone that really, really helps you in a time of need. So I think it's just showcasing the best of our membership. We always try and do.
Yeah. Funny enough, it's Yorkshire Day was the, I've got to put this on because this is our Mr. Sean Bean from Sheffield, Yorkshire, man. Yorkshire Day was the 1st of August. So there were an event near where I lived, and there were a particular organisation what deals with breastfeeding. Now, breastfeeding is an issue that comes around quite regularly, and it's about promoting breastfeeding, and people shouldn't be afraid or ashamed of doing it. It's a natural thing. But coming from Yorkshire, this particular organisation had the slogan, instead of Yorkshire born and bred, it was Yorkshire born and fed. And I thought that was quite a good little slogan, and things like that, where as a rep or a member could go there and take some footage, whether that be as a little interview or a photograph or whatever, just with a banner or with a CW sort of branding, and then we can share that by all these different platforms that we're getting involved with community-based issues that all members actually effect. And I think that'd be a good way of positive and this collectivity that Dave Ward's been talking about and Tony Kearns has been talking about in the last previous sessions. So yeah, it's really Des, where's Yorkshire? Well, it's just a little bit up the A1, Des, just up the A1. So yeah, excellent bit there. So in terms of going on to the digital campaigns, because we're using the platforms within social media for promoting campaigns. So particularly, you know, I think it's worth to say congratulations to you and the team, Chris, for, and I'll put the graphics on, the best campaign communication, the CW Christmas advert. There's another screenshot while you're on holiday, by the way, so you never seem to rest accepting that award. You know, a fantastic video, high quality video. But I mean, what are our members' best campaigns? So, you know, just make the comment in the stream and we'll see what it is. I'll share my personal favourite, and it was from a few years ago, Chris, and it was the We Rise Again campaign, a fantastic hashtag. And particularly, you came up with something called the Daily Dispute. So there's one here. I'll just play this just to show you how, you know, the rough and readied but semi-pro where you were moving into it. Fantastic little video.
Mel, come back to the negotiating table, negotiate this trade union and make sure we get an agreement at the end of this that actually protects our members' terms and conditions.
Excellent, Barry. With reps like you, I'm in no doubt that we're going to smash this ballot. Okay guys, it's that time again. He's back, he's ready. Let's see what Head of Communications Chris Webb has in store for you all today on Webby's Weather.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just let you know where all the fantastic meetings have been taking place today.
Hang on a second. This is my weather forecast today, Webby.
Now, Dave, this is my gig. This is what I do. This is what the members expect.
I'm a General Secretary. I'll be delivering the weather forecast today.
Oh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just letting you know where all the fantastic meetings have taken place today. So well done to, this is going to take a while. It's absolutely vital that branches continue these meetings. They will be the backbone to any ballot result. We have to turn out a massive vote and deliver a massive yes vote. On Monday, join us for a huge Facebook Live. Then on Tuesday, it's National Gate Meeting Day. Thank you for your ongoing support. The members are the union. Back to you, Lauren.
So yeah, I just thought there were a lot of humour in that, and to be honest, it's to be hoped that you wasn't a divisional rep conceded like that, you know, when you was a rep, but it was just a bit of play. But yeah, I thought these sort of that video and that series of videos were really quite inspiring, and I think it really struck a chord with members that actually they wanted to be part of this. I don't like using the word bandwagon, but effectively that's what it was. You know, people wanted to get on it, wanted to get involved, wanted to be being seen to be backing the trade union during that dispute. And, you know, the end result was we've got a yes vote with a massive, unprecedented turnout. So, yeah. What's your personal favourite, Chris?
In terms of campaign, that one, it's exactly the same as yourself, the We Rise Again. And there's a number of reasons for that. Number one, it was the biggest yes vote and turnout in trade union history for a major industrial action ballot. So, you know, it's hard to look past that. I think, you know, that's important to say. But not more importantly, but as importantly for that, this may sound a bit soppy to people watching and maybe a bit soppy to you even, Scott, is that I've always, since I was a local rep, I've always had a view that the union belongs to the members. And that they should run the union, like, you know, and have as much control over it as possible. And that moment, and that campaign and that ballot campaign felt to me like the most empowered I've ever seen and felt the membership. And I think we managed to, you know, convince tens of thousands of people that they had a say and they had an influence and that their vote mattered. And that to me, like, it was so valuable and so inspiring. And I think, you know, if I could capture, you know, those moments again, you know, I would. In terms of, like, you know, individual things, I think there was a moment when shortly after Dave Ward got elected and Terry Pullinger got elected, and then I was made head of comms, where we had a big rally in Manchester for the People's Post campaign. And there was like 10,000 people at a post a rally about Royal Mail, and it was just after Jeremy Corbyn elected leader of the Labour Party. That was an amazing night, and that was a night where, because of the close proximity to the Dave's election, it felt like we were saying things are going to be different. So that was a good moment as well. And also personal, like so many things that again, don't want to waffle on really, but the two things that I can look back now and really laugh about were when we projected onto Royal Mail's headquarters, and then I think the funniest probably one was when we went to Switzerland and went to see Rico, because and again that was funny because like it was just humorous, but also what that was about for me wasn't I wasn't me going off I want to fancy an EasyJet trip to Switzerland at 4 a.m. It was about saying to our members, these people think there's something, they're not. They're not. We collectively are more powerful for them, and if they run from us, we'll come and we'll find them and we'll expose them. And I think all those little bits that was part of the We Rise campaign came together too. When ballot papers landed, there was almost an explosion of pride in the union, and great moments, mate.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, Des agreed with you on that about the hunting down Rico. I think that were a cracking one as well. So yeah, some great sort of campaigns there. Now I think it might be worth, if you don't mind, a bit of banter, talking about that beard.
Oh God.
So I think there's I think members have actually tuned in not to talk about all the great work and that, it's actually to talk about your beard for some reason. But no, I mean, I've shown that graphic there. That were you, 6 years ago, 34. Because I think you're the same age as me, aren't you, Chris? Or maybe actually slightly younger.
I am 40, yeah. But the bold hair and the stress defies that. But there you go. Oh God, where are you getting these photos, Scott?
Your Facebook. So there's that one. I mean, what one could say. I mean, this thing is, we've all done it. I'm 40. I've lost my hair, and so there's a picture of me, and
yeah, that's a nice
there's my dog,
and
there's me. That's where my head's gone. So so there's you, there's your dog, and you know what's coming.
Yeah,
there you go.
No, but yeah, my dog's definitely more handsome than me. I'll give him
that. But yeah, it's you talking to me before we went online about why you got that beard. I think it's a funny story. I think members might actually chuckle at themselves as to why you've got a beard and why you won't shave it off.
Well, wow, yeah. When I was so most members won't know, but some might know. I'm a massive fan of Plymouth Argyle, and until I was about 30, I was div rep at the time. I'd shaved every day of my life. Echo my dad's words of like, if you're unshaven, you're scruffy, you'll never get a job, echoing in my ears, and never even grew any stubble or anything like that. Every single day I'd have a shave. And then in 2011, Plymouth were in major financial trouble and the club was collapsing. And I ended up, through one mad twist and turn and another, ended up heading up the fans trust down there. So basically a fans union, and I became the chairman of the fans trust. And part of our campaign involving some fantastic stuff, to really sort of trade union style campaign of public meetings, of marches and that. But in amongst all that was the mad idea that the fans wouldn't shave until the club was saved. Little did we know that the club wouldn't be saved for another 10 months. So I came out of that looking like an absolute madman. And come the end, which, a brilliant part of my life, and being involved in saving the club was fantastic. I then shaved immediately, reverted to type, shaved my beard off, and didn't like it. So grew it back, and I've had it ever since for about 10 years now. 10 years this October since the club was saved. So maybe one day I'll shave it off for CWHA, but that day is a good few years in the future yet, Scott.
I mean, I haven't tapped him up as well, by the way, but he has made a comment as Paddy. And what Paddy said is that some have given their facial hair up for charity in the past. So, your beard may be numbered if it's the right price for the right.
What I say to that is, I was witness to Paddy giving up his much cherished facial hair, and Carl Maiden was almost violent in taking it off. So if one day I agree to take off the beard, Carl Maiden will be nowhere near that procedure.
Excellent. Yeah, I genuinely haven't tried to stitch you up. That's just how it's going. Yeah, the CW app. So you briefly touched on it. It's something I want to delve into a bit more specifics about, if we can. Specifically, when will it land for our members? Because we have landed it on a trial basis and then withdrawn it because there were some teething issues that you want to resolve. But when will it land, and what sort of benefits will be built into it, which will, benefit our members?
Thank you, Scott. Yeah. So I think it's going to land. It's landed now live with my team now. We are working on it, getting content. So I think in about 10 to 14 days, it'll go live to the whole membership. So no more testing. Here it is. You can use it. The big benefits, I think, are all of the unions, the best of the unions communications all in one place. So you may like our banter on Twitter, our videos on Facebook, our live stream on YouTube, podcast on SoundCloud. We'll bring them all together. So it's all in one place. So I think that's an extremely positive thing for us to be able to present to everyone. I saw Kath's point around the moderation. That's another really powerful point as well, because this doesn't require moderation because there's no commenting facility or back and forth. It's just the union sharing information with its members and getting information across. So much more safer environment, if you like, for members to operate in and do their business in. And I think it'll also be a big benefit of the union in terms of our ability to automatically reach members with information at the click of a button. So, I think it was Dave Johnson who had commented about Royal Mail's workplace app. I mean, the first thing to say is they've got like a huge amount of money to invest in that stuff and staff that can support that. And, and they should be engaging with their employees. So good luck to them. What I would say is that obviously, clearly our budget's going to be a lot smaller, but our app is going to be a lot sharper. You're not going to be seeing content you don't want to see. It's going to have personalized feeds. So you'll log in, you'll say, your name, your branch, your region, your constituency, and the app will tailor the information to that. So I would see, the stuff from Plymouth, stuff from the Southwest, stuff from the National Union, so, and you also have the ability to say, actually, I want to see it all. I'm really interested in what every region has got to say. I'm really interested in what's going on in postal and telecoms and financial services and tech workers. So, members will be able to control what they see. And I think that's important as well, because sometimes on our Facebook page, we have to put all the content there, and some members aren't as committed to others. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that in a time way. They just want to see what they feel impacts on them. So, giving members control of what they see and putting it all in one place, I think, is a significant benefit. The big thing I think I want to finish on with the app is it's going to have two sides. One side is all of what I've just described. The other side is something called Affiliate, which is a name we've given to the app, which is basically going to be wider trade union movement content. So we are going to be talking about raising money. And why aren't the NHS workers got a proper pay rise? We're going to be talking about strikes that are happening in industries right across, the country, and in fact, globally. We're going to be hosting podcasts with other unions on their issues. So we're going to be giving over a platform to the whole trade union movement. And there's some brilliant people out there doing some brilliant work, raising like left-wing issues. But I think this is going to be a great home for workers' content and workers who are in struggle, and solidarity pieces and merchandise and all those sorts of things. So I'm really excited by it. And I hope when it comes out and you can guys get hold of it, you'll be excited by it too.
And do you think that when it comes out, it'll be this year, or do you think it's going to be a 22 launch?
No, it'll be out in a couple of weeks. 100%. Yeah. 2021.
Excellent. Yeah. So that's a bit of an exclusive for
yes.
us. Yeah. Excellent. So in terms of this app, and I mean, obviously with how videos and online content works, it's about a URL and an embedded code and one thing or another. Now, will this app, will you be able to target the people which opt in and just share things direct to them without having to put it in like a public domain? So, more personalized messages. So if we're talking industrially, would say Mark Bowles, for example, just want to hit the delivery members about a bespoke message to them through the app, or will it be just basically you have to put it out somewhere and then it'll embed it through?
Yeah, we'll have to put it somewhere to start with. Depending on the success of the app, one of the next stages is that we can build those platforms within the app. Obviously, we want to take it in baby steps to make sure, what we're doing. So, for example, people might love the video content, but not love the podcasting, or vice versa. So we want to see what people are digesting first. But we can put it in places like Vimeo and YouTube, put it as a private link, and then so nobody sees it on YouTube or Vimeo, and then run it into the app to the targeted audiences that you described. So yes, we can effectively, do what. And the other thing about it is, once we've embedded it in the app, we've invested a bit of money to make sure that people just have to click play. So you don't have to click play and then Facebook comes up, or YouTube or Twitter. It'll be like a really slick thing, or you'll see like latest video from Mark Boach with a play button, play it, and it'll be on. So yeah, we've invested time and money to make the process. I've got this big thing online that if you make things difficult for members, then they'll end up just switching it off.
Yeah,
they're saying I've had enough of that. So we try and get them where they need to be in as least clicks as possible.
Excellent. Which kind of comes into a bit about where you steered the communications rather than it being overcomplicated.
Yeah.
You slim it down. So Chris Pollock, a fellow beard wearer, he just wants to know how we'll find out when it's ready. So I presume you'll launch an LTB. I presume you'll push it through the WhatsApp service. And one thing other, is there any other avenues where you do a live session about it, maybe to demo it on live, perhaps?
Yeah. So we're going to have a national briefing for all our senior officials, led by Dave, obviously, and we'll really go for it in terms of, as you've just detailed, the WhatsApp broadcast. We'll pump it on social media. We'll email it out to every member. We're going to have a whole page on it in the next edition of The Voice. So, I'll be surprised if a member doesn't hear about it via one way, shape, or form. We're going to text the link out to download it to every member. So, we're going to invest a sizable amount of time in getting people on the app. Then that's one challenge. The second challenge is making sure there's enough content on a regular enough basis to make people want to keep clicking back into it to check what we're up to. So two big challenges there for the comms team. One's to get people on it. Second, which is more importantly, is to keep people on it.
And would I be right in saying that it's going to be cross-platform, so it won't be just on Android or just on iOS?
Yeah, so it's Android. I'll get this right. It's across. Yeah, it is across platforms. Yeah, and with the ability for it to be changeable on the basis of new platforms being launched as well. So we've sort of built that cost already in with the app developers as well, who have been very good.
Excellent. So I think we've had quite a lot of comments and a lot of activity. Although, to be fair, we've not had much feedback about Snapchat. Is that anything you've actually used, Chris?
Yeah, we have done, and we used it successfully I want to get the year right. I think it was 2018 or 19, one of the general elections. We used it for advertising successfully, but we have struggled to gain attraction on an ongoing basis. But as I said, in terms of social media, particularly when it's a campaign, we try and make sure that things go everywhere. But we did struggle to get traction on there because it's more of a one-to-one interaction service, if that makes sense, rather than like an organising or an influencing platform. But the Labour Party did some good work on it under Corbyn in sort of placing, register to vote adverts all over young people's Snapchat. So one thing I certainly wouldn't rule out is using the advertising function of it on a more regular basis to reach younger members.
Excellent. Well, I mean, that ties into a comment there from Pete. So who do you think should take over the Labour and take back to the People's Party? I know CDB close with JC. Who would you like to see in charge, Chris? Slightly a tangent, but I thought, well, it's worth banging on.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, it's first thing I'll say is it's not really. It's more like Dave, Tony Kearns, and the NEC that one than me. None of the above probably would be my answer at the minute. What I would like to see is probably someone with the politics of Jeremy, but with the ruthlessness of maybe some of the right-wing characters. So I think, you know, I'm not sure that those people are out there. In the absence of those people, which I think there is a distinct absence, if we're honest about it, I think it comes back to what Dave Ward's been saying for a long time now, which is like more important than them is what we're doing as a trade union movement. And I think, you know, that's what comes back to. We've talked a lot today, and rightfully so, about, you know, what we've done as a CWU for our members. I think we also have a huge role to play in the wider trade union movement and setting the example. This is how you represent people. This is how you communicate with people. This is how you inspire people. And I think the more of that we can do, the more hope we can inject into the trade union movement. And actually, like, I'm somebody very similar to Dave who believes that we shouldn't sit around and wait for the Labour Party to change things, because as a movement, we have the power to do that as well. So, I mean, good question from Peter, but my focus would be more on, like, what can our union do to deliver for people?
Excellent. Well, I think that's a worthy point, and through communication, I think we can hopefully achieve that. So, you know, 52 minutes we've been on, so I think that's fantastic. So, Chris, thank you for joining the surgery. We've covered many aspects of communication. Chris and I, to be fair to everyone watching, value your feedback and engagement tonight. I think it's been fantastic. And to be fair, my personal thing, I think the future looks bright. So, Chris, thanks for joining us tonight. Would you like to partake in the future, a future one? I think it'd be, you know, maybe review some of the exclusives, perhaps.
Yeah, of course I would. Any time. And just to say thank you to you, Scott, and again to repeat, you know, you're doing a great job, mate. And I would encourage, and I know not all of the NEC are fantastic and our officers. I would encourage anyone who gets an invite from Scott to come and take it up, because there's nothing more important in all of our jobs than getting out and engaging with and speaking to our members. So well done to you, mate. And it's been a pleasure to sit and share some time with you. And thank you to the reps and members who have tuned in as well, because your time is valuable and you've chosen to spend it to us. And I know we both appreciate that.
Excellent. Thanks. So if you've enjoyed the surgery, do give it a like, do leave a comment, and please share with your friends on social media. But remember, unity is strength. Thanks for watching.